Good afternoon to everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. We actually got a little sunshine today in Portland. Thank you for joining us for the I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project's historic Albina Advisory Board meeting. We are waiting for HAAB members to join the virtual space, and we will get started shortly. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, Commissioner Chapman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Erica. Happy to be here.
Yes. Thank you to the rest of our team who's also in the virtual space. As HAAB members are joining, we want to remind you today is Tuesday, April 9th. We are here for the I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project's historic Albina Advisory Board meeting. We will begin shortly. We are just waiting for a few HAAB members to enter the meeting space. Thank you for your flexibility, your patience, and for joining us to discuss this important work. Again, thank you again to all of you who have joined us in the virtual meeting space. We are waiting for additional HAAB members to join us. We will begin in just a moment. We appreciate your patience. Thank you all for joining us for the I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project's Historic Albina Advisory Board meeting. We have just a couple more HAAB members that are being admitted into the space. If my colleagues and technical folks could please begin sharing the slides, we will get started shortly.
Hello.
Hello there, Mr. Washington. Great to have you today. Thank you. I know Mr. Modica is trying to get logged in, but I'm happy to get us started today. Welcome into the space for this very important work. My name is Erica Warren. I have the honor of facilitating this community conversation with the Historic Albina Advisory Board meeting. Historic Albina Advisory Board. We are moving today to continue our discussion towards what this project can mean in regards to reinvestment and reinvigoration in the historic Albina community. Next slide, please. Make sure to those who can, HAAB members and those who are speaking, to keep your cameras on. We appreciate the virtual space, but it is nice to be able to see your faces. Next slide, please. Today, we will have an opportunity for public comment. We will have an opportunity to share with you what we heard in the March meeting. We had a great discussion with our HAAB as well as extended historic Albina community members, leaders, business owners, and stakeholders. We'll have an opportunity to break into two smaller groups to reflect on those and see if there was anything we may have missed. We'll come back together and then we will have a brief discussion around what we are doing to move forward into our May discussion regarding the technical conversation and those things that are helping move this project to the 30% milestone. We will have a brief moment for breakout in regards to that topic. Then we will come back together and we will have an opportunity to chat a bit about the Oregon Transportation Commission resolution. We'll give an update and then there will be an opportunity for us again to move into breakout discussions in regards to the resolution and the work plan that will be following. Once that is complete, we will come back together to discuss our next steps and to move forward. Next slide, please. You all are familiar with these, Your Voice Matters. That is all of our presenters, our community members, the broader Portland Metro community. We appreciate you being in the space with us. Your voice matters. We want to hear what you have to say. We trust that you will be authentic and genuine. This is a passion project for many of us. We ask you to listen for understanding. And because of that, we ask you to deal with issues and not people. This is not personal towards any one person. We are dealing with historic issues, institutional issues, and there is a lot of work for us to do together. We imagine you will experience some discomfort often in these conversations, but we rarely grow outside of discomfort. So please remain respectfully engaged. If you are able to have your camera on, we appreciate seeing your face and engaging with you as close to an in-person encounter as we can. And again, we will not solve everything in this meeting, so we ask you to expect and accept non-closure, but our goal is always to be moving towards a better result and an expected end. Next slide, please. At this time, I am going to turn the meeting over to my colleague who will assist us with public comment. We encourage
Thanks.
comments. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so members of the public viewing the live stream are invited to make a verbal public comment by phone at this time. And if you wish to do so, please dial the phone number, meeting ID, and passcode that are shown on this slide. The phone number is 971-247-1195. Enter meeting ID 874-4302-1143, and then passcode 508847. And you will be put in a virtual waiting room, and we will invite you in to make a comment of up to 2 minutes. And I'm looking to see, we already have one person hoping to make a public comment in the waiting room. And I can go ahead and let them in and share the on-screen timer for our 2-minute time limit. So Angela, if you'll stop sharing, please. And I will admit our phone number ending in 5424. Phone number ending in 5424. If you'd like to make a public comment, we are almost ready for you. I'm sharing the on-screen timer. And okay, phone number with the last 4 digits, 5424, please unmute yourself and provide your comment.
Hi, for the record, Joe Courtwright. I'm an economist with City Observatory. And thank you again for the opportunity to testify to the HAAB. HAAB is clearly the central forum in our community for discussing the Rose Quarter project, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify. And in testifying today and before, I'm very mindful of the principles that were articulated for the HAAB, particularly dealing with issues and not with people. And I'll address my comments to the key issues of this project. And the key issues are that very little is being done to address or to mitigate the past damage that has been done by ODOT highways. And in fact, ODOT staff, I don't think, has been frank with the members of the HAAB in articulating their responsibility and their authority to spend their resources correcting the problems created by the ODOT highways. And in particular, there are 4 different provisions of federal law and regulation that require mitigation of the past damage done by this project. They include the NEPA Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, which requires identifying past damages and repairing them. There's the environmental justice policy of the Department of Transportation that similarly requires looking at cumulative effects of all past actions and correcting them. There's also the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which specifically requires grant recipients to correct the effects of past discrimination. And then finally, there are the terms of the Reconnecting Communities Grant itself, which specifically direct the use of those funds to correcting past inequities. And I think what you've been told by the staff is, for example, that no highway money could be used to sufficiently reinforce the structures supporting the cover to support anything other than the covers themselves. That is incorrect. There are ample opportunities to mitigate past damages by subsidizing housing, by building community facilities, not necessarily on-site, but off-site, and to do things like community land trusts. All of those things should be investigated as part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at time. Appreciate you providing those comments. And as a reminder, there are ways to provide additional comments listed on the agenda. And in addition to the verbal public comment we heard, we received one comment in writing that was shared with HAAB members in advance of the meeting. And I do not see any other commenters in the waiting room at this time, Erica.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Courtwright, for your comment. And I do see a hand from Ms. Estelle, and then following that, Ms. Leslie.
Hello. I just had a question. I guess I don't know if this is allowed or not, but I do have a question for Mr. Courtwright, and just because he has been a public commenter on so many occasions. And I was a little bit curious about a couple things, and hopefully maybe he can either email me directly or however he would like to answer these questions. Before, when he's commented, he said we had questions and we this and we that. So besides the city observatory, I'm curious about who he represents when he comes here and asks questions. Is it No More Freeways? Is it just City Observatory? Who does he represent? And I just wondered if he still feels like this project is being woke washed, and what he might mean when in some of his commentaries for City Observatory from 2020 to present, when he has used the term woke washing, because so many times woke is used as a dog whistle for Black. And when approaching this committee and saying things like, we're not aware of the principles of the project, but the principles of the project are restorative justice to specifically the Black community of Portland. So if you have an issue with woke washing or things that are being done for the Black community, I need to know kind of what's the issue here. Is it with the principles of the project as being done to restore the Black community, and you're concerned about things being done for the Black community and being woke washed? I kind of need to know what the issue is. Is it that you feel that the Black community is not being educated in a project that's being woke washed to restore us? Because you come here like you're concerned about things that might be done to restore a wrong that's done to us, but then you write about things that are being done also in our name that might be woke washed. So I'm confused about when you come here and concern and talk to us. So that kind of needs to be made clear when you come to us in good faith. Are you a helping hand, or are you concerned about things being woke washed? Because that's a strong thing. Oh, good, you're on the phone still. And so I need to know what's meant by woke washed, because that's strong language, and I really don't like that. Because I know what that means. And I am someone who's a class away from a master's. And like all these people here, we're professional people and we're educated people. And please do know, and I know that you were reminded of this last time, that we are educated people or professional people. And I know what woke washed means, sir. And I know you didn't think that you could keep calling in here week after week, like we weren't going to research you and look up you and know your background and things that you've written and things that you've said over the last 4 years. I know you didn't think that was going to happen. So that's really disrespectful, sir. So are you a helping hand or are you a hindering hand? And attacking ideas and not people, that's an idea. Saying something has been woke washed, that's an idea, sir. So please, could you elaborate on what you meant by that?
I'd be delighted to elaborate on that. And thank you very much for your question, because it's an appropriate one.
Yes,
Let me respond in these ways. First of all, to the extent that I use the term we in a lot of the writing at City Observatory, that's an editorial convention on our part. I'm the principal at City Observatory. We've written extensively about the Rose Quarter project and done our due diligence on that. And I'm delighted to hear that you've looked at what's published at City Observatory, and I stand by everything that's written there. And I'd be happy to discuss that at length. But let's talk about the term, why I might use the term woke washing. And first of all, let me be clear. I think restorative justice is the imperative objective for this project. A huge wrong was done to Albina, not just by the I-5 highway project,
Oh,
but by
can I
three
stop
different
you
ODOT
there
projects.
for a second?
Sure.
So when you say the victims are being asked to pay for the perpetrators in a column, did you say victims? Who were the victims that you were talking about in that column?
If I can remember correctly, that had to do with Harriet Tubman Middle School and the fact that ODOT's highway, which, as you know, creates tremendous air pollution and air quality problems on the Harriet Tubman campus.
No,
requires the
it
installation.
wasn't those, sir. And the victims in this case would be us, and we pay taxes. But go ahead. But this is just a brief part of the thing. But maybe next time when you call in, you can sit on these questions that I've asked you, and maybe just or you can email me. But just think about these things, and maybe next time, or when you present questions to this board, because it has to be kept brief for things to move on. Or maybe I can email you at your city observatory address and ask you these questions.
I'd be delighted to have that. But the problem is,
I can do
this project is not restorative justice. This project is a freeway widening project that isn't meeting the community's own self-defined restorative justice ends. And that's why I use that term.
I'll ask you these questions in a more appropriate setting, but just know that people are paying attention to you, just like you're paying attention here.
Thank you so much, and I would love to have that conversation.
Okay.
Thank you, Estelle. Thank you, Mr. Courtwright, for being willing to respond. We appreciate it. I'm going to move to Ms. Leslie's comment in order to move us forward.
I will try to keep mine brief, Miss Erica.
Thank you.
Mr. Courtwright, I appreciate that you continue to come back. But as I said last time, you need to quit talking to us like we're first graders. That's the first thing. The second thing is, where was the concern about Harriet Tubman School in 2010 when my daughter was going to Harriet Tubman? I didn't hear anybody jumping up and down about the air quality at that school 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, or 45 years ago, or 50 years ago when I attended the school, when it was Elliott Elementary School. So it's only recently, since this project happened, that white folks have been concerned about air quality at that school. Secondly, you said that this was about dealing with issues, not people. And yet you went to the Willamette Week to try to get them to do a funky story on Erica and Tri Excellence and Dr. Holt. Now, I find that that is underhanded, scrupulous, white privileged behavior, because you're not getting your way. White folks have had their way in Portland for a long time, and this one committee and this one project is focused with Black people in the center, and y'all can't stand it. So you need to back the heck up and recognize that there are other people in this town that should have a say on this particular project. Because if you come at us, we're gonna come back at you. I'm just saying, it's not appropriate that because we have not rolled over and let you have your way, that you continue to push forward and to try to figure out a way to dig at our facilitators. And then the third thing is, again, we have checked you out just like you've checked us out. And when you come the next time, you need to come in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration and not talking to us like you're a college professor and you're educating us. Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes, I'll give you just a moment, Mr. Courtwright.
Thank you. And again, I've devoted considerable energy to researching this project and publishing the information and putting it out there. And to the extent that I've tried to identify facts, I hope they're ones that are helpful to the HAAB in its stated objective of promoting restorative justice for this project. That's why I outlined the 4 different provisions of federal law that direct ODOT to spend their resources to correcting past problems. I've followed your meetings carefully. That information hasn't been provided to you by ODOT. And in fact, they've represented pretty much the opposite, that they claim that their hands are tied and that they can only spend money on the highway and in the right of way. And if you think that you're being misled by me, I would just ask you to invite that same level of scrutiny to the department that ran 3 different highway projects through Albina and decimated it, because I'm not the one who did that. And I'm happy to put the facts in front of you, and I understand you're the folks who are in charge here, and you may dispose of that information as you wish. I hope the information is helpful to you. It's presented in the spirit of contributing to the dialogue, which is what I think
so you're not responding to the fact that you went to the Willamette Week about Tri-Excellence. I didn't hear you say anything about why you did that.
Well, to be more comprehensive, we've talked to Willamette Week about all aspects of this project for years. In particular, the fact that it's vastly wider than it needs to be. We also identified not any particular contractor, but the $110 million in money that has gone out to contractors for this project, of which Tri-Excellence is probably less than 2%. So we're concerned about the cost of the project.
That Nigel was only concerned about Erica, Dr. Holt, and Tri-Excellence.
You'll have to take that up with Mr. Jakeless. That's not something that I directed him to.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Courtwright, for being willing to respond. Thank you, Mr. Lowe, for your comments. I do see your hand, Mr. Washington. I appreciate you for joining the call, Mr. Courtwright. I'm into public testimony and shift to Mr. Washington.
Mr. Cartwright, I appreciate the information that you've been bringing to the table to us. I think the point that I'm hearing real clearly is the fact that it's the way it's brought. Okay, so, but the information and content, I do appreciate. If there's a different way that you could submit it and get it to us and those types of things, I'm open to that. But what I'm clearly hearing, it's the way the information is being brought to us, not about the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Again, thank you, Mr. Courtwright, for being willing to respond. We are going to move forward in our meeting. Thank you for bringing public comment. Next slide, please. All right, and we can move into the next slide. I want to remind each of you of our March meeting. Thank you to all of the extended community members who joined us in March to have a discussion around some really exciting developments around the technical issues, around precedents and possibilities. I want to just recap some of the discussion takeaways, and then we'll have an opportunity to break up and go a little deeper, see if we missed anything that you recall. HAAB members and guests helped to confirm that the priorities that were identified in the independent cover assessment process were still valid and applicable. During those discussions, the topics that were emphasized were those that you see on your screen: economic ecosystem, that there were good paying jobs for Black community members, opportunities for wealth generation for Black business owners, permanently affordable housing also within that realm, education, career training and advancement, cultural education about the history of Black Portland, and education about the project so that future community contributors also could continue to advance the purpose. Safety and health, minimizing harm to community livability and health through the construction phase, and cover design governance was definitely very important regarding governance for cover development and mechanisms that prioritize opportunities for Black business. In regards to the precedents, we reviewed multiple national precedents, and many of you recognized the following issues as the highest priorities. That was access to resources, i.e. third space for youth and community, art, which is deeply rooted in our culture, landmarks rooted in Black history, feasibility and funding and how we manage expectations and build developments that are affordable and avoid us losing trust with community members, considering how development changes based on market conditions and funding, et cetera, are part of the conversation. And then we talked about the technical questions. We used a Mentimeter as a tool to help us to engage around the technical questions. Some of these were around ownership and whether or not ODOT has ownership over the land in the cover. How does that work as they do have ownership? Will it be earthquake resilient? What is estimated square footage and size, and all of those questions came about. There was conversation around advanced technology and how it could be used to help us facilitate the discussion around covers moving forward. Next slide. At this time, we are going to break into 2 breakout sessions. My colleague, Shannon Singleton, will help to facilitate the other breakout room. We will have a note taker, et cetera, as we did. We find that this gives us an opportunity to engage more of you. There will be a report out for the broader community that is listening in on this meeting. And so at this time, I'm going to ask our technical team to help us move into our virtual space for our discussion around the meeting in March. Thank you all. Apologize, Mr. Modica. Our time was cut short, but I'm going to give an opportunity for our note takers just to give a brief reflection of the discussion that we had in each room prior to us moving forward. We did take notes. The sessions were recorded, and so I would love to have either jump in and share just a brief overview very quickly.
Hi,
Ready?
yeah, I'm ready to go. Thanks, Erica. I was in breakout room 1. These are some of the comments that that I heard. I think overall the issues of the precedents and the priorities that I guess we got it right. Folks felt that we were moving in the right direction. There was some good compliments about the visuals of the presentation were very clear and presentable and presented good information, and folks didn't have any trouble understanding those. Folks really liked the idea of having the community guests, the input come in to get their contribution and their contribution and comments about what has been done, and have felt really good about the fact that the comments seem to support the way the HAAB committee was moving. Folks really appreciated the understanding of developments in the area, in the broader district, things like the Broadway corridor and the Lloyd Center and some other areas around that are being developed, as well as also the work of what Prosper Portland is doing and ABT. Just to give a broader context of what is happening around this area seemed to be very helpful. There was some concern more a little bit about understanding the ideas of ownership and also the issues of the right-of-way and how that process was moving forward and how that was going to be determined. Also wanted to address, I think, a good comment about we're going to have a new city government soon, and just wanting to make sure folks understand that may have some impact about how the project will proceed. It's another factor of a changing environment, and that's something we need to be aware of. There was a brief question about whether an issue of a cannabis dispensary could be on the cover, whether a use like that would be acceptable on the cover if it's owned by the feds, something we want to look at. And then I think the final issue came up about tolling. The idea of this project was, I think, developed with the idea that tolling would occur, and the fact that at the federal level that was the assumption that was made, but here at the state that was taken away. And I believe it would be helpful if the governor was able to come and have an open dialogue with the HAAB members about how she made her decision and why she made that decision and the impact it will have. So more of an open dialogue and less of things being done without any input or respect from what the HAAB is thinking or their perspective.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I think I got it right, or pretty close to right.
I think you did. You did an
Okay.
excellent job.
Thank you.
All right. And I believe, Maren, are you our note taker from group 2?
Oh, it was me.
I was gonna say, I don't
Hey,
think it was me.
Tiffany. Hey there.
Hi. Yeah. So pretty much all of our conversation was about the economic ecosystem topic. There was one piece of technical information that we felt we heard was not quite covered enough, the idea about ventilation filtration, so that wanted to be lifted up, but a lot of conversation about needing a little bit more specificity on the economic issues. Discussion of building the businesses and housing won't be enough. We need to really advocate for business ownership and small business legacy, workforce opportunity, interest in really developing a process that tracks and audits where the money is going to ensure that this project is really improving the economic progress for the Black community in Portland. And some interesting conversation about related context that HAAB members knew from their other work with housing and their other appointments as well. But overall, just a real interest in needing more from the project about these economic issues, bringing in economists, needing more answers and proposals and solutions. So that was the overall discussion. Shannon, anything else you wanted to add to that?
Thanks, Tiffany. And Leslie, please feel free to chime in with the real numbers. But I think an important data point was shared in that group that the Black community is making an average of a little over $48,000 a year, which is about 41% of area median income. And it's the lowest of all ethnicities in our community. And that's why there's such a passion and desire to really target and focus the investments of this work, not only when it comes to construction, but the money being spent now to ensure that Black people are getting access to these dollars.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
both.
Shannon.
Yes, thank you so much for the discussion and for leaning in. We'll continue to have conversations and elevate those concerns that we heard today. We're just a little bit behind, but we're going to move forward in our agenda. So if you will share the slides, please. At this time, I am going to invite my colleague John Wolf to present a look ahead to May, where we're going to talk more in depth about getting to 30% design.
Thank you, Ms. Erica. And next slide, please. So a few slides here are just recapping some of the conversations we've had over the last few months and really setting us up for ongoing discussions in May. And so this is a slide you saw back in September at a previous HAAB meeting that we have 4 distinct focus points on the 30% design that we'll be coming back to and engaging with on this HAAB group. Highway cover uses has really been our focus for the last several months, but just indicating as we look ahead that we'll be coming back to some of the discussions on local streets, particularly the local street design, Ramsey Wheeler, and some of the local street operations, and the bike and ped overcrossing. Next slide. So over the past few months, we've been reporting back on some of our initial feasibility and due diligence work that we've investigated related to development on the highway cover. The objective of that was twofold. It was largely to share an update on some of the technical work that was performed, as well as seek feedback from the group or help support questions that we could either answer in this moment or questions we will continue to carry forward into our work as we move ahead. With our initial investigations, we were really focused on these 5 subcategories or sub-bullets where we wanted to discuss the potential parcels within the purview and scale of our project work. So really defining the project footprint as we anticipated it, provide an update on on the highway cover capacity, describe some of the factors that were going to influence building placement. And so we talked a bit about offsets and some of those influences on building placement, particularly on or adjacent to the highway cover. We explored a little bit of some examples of potential development that could be compatible with some of these technical considerations that we've investigated as part of this initial work. And then I began to identify follow-up questions and additional considerations that we want to carry into our 30% design and beyond. Next slide. So we have put together a few slides to try to more definitively recap some of the findings and work from our initial evaluations. And so this slide is really recapping some of the potential takeaways of this initial screening and feasibility work. So at the edges of the cover, and so that's identified on the north end as parcel 1A and 1B on this graphic, and parcel 12 to the south. These will most likely be some form of permanently public parcels with limited vertical development. That's a combination of considerations to the separation and buffer from the freeway, the need for long-term access to those edges, as well as the limits to the capacity of the structure itself. Parcel 2A, also towards the northern end of the highway cover, will be limited in capacity due to the structural configurations, most likely able to only support a one-story light frame building. And the remainder of those parcels, those shown in orange on the right, would have the potential for up to 3 stories in vertical development based on the analysis and technical assumptions that we investigated as part of that initial study that we've been discussing. And as part of those conversations and in part of some of the engagement, there was questions about capacity as well as modifications to the bridge. And so it was reported that transportation funds cannot be the mechanism to increase the size of the bridge type to support additional cover needs beyond those for transportation. Next slide. As we expanded on these considerations, we discussed that the assumption that no building would span across the joint, so no singular building would span across bridge joints or span between off cover and on cover. And that's in part due to the different movements and interactions of those bridge structures as foundations and the structural components of the building itself. There could be an opportunity for those buildings to have some form of bridging, whether it be a bridge structure between 2 buildings or some form of canopy awning or some other mechanism to create an appearance of a connected structure, but the 2 buildings would be individual buildings, not spanning joints or abutments. And last bullet, referencing setbacks from these joints and abutments. We discussed the need for those in part due to the way the bridge is going to support building loadings, the need for access, the need for utilities, and geotechnical considerations. So we've identified a need for setback in several areas in the range of 10 to 15 feet, depending on some of those technical considerations and specific locations. Next slide. Expanding somewhat beyond the technical and a little bit into the context of how this is going to relate to potential and precedents, we've identified that on-cover development is going to be more complex than development on land due to some of these technical considerations that we've been discussing. Again, transportation funds are required to be used for transportation facilities. And so modifications to the bridge and further considerations for development beyond transportation would need to be funded through other means. And lastly, on this slide, because of some of these complexities, because of some of these considerations, it is likely that some form of subsidy might be required to support the incentive behind development of these. And there was a desire to understand more around kind of the economics of that and what that might look like. And so that's going to be continued to be explored further in later stages of our work. Next slide. And I think this might be our last slide. As we've talked about development scenarios and precedents, we've talked about being on some of the initial steps of embarking on this process. So just recapping that the process of exploring and designing the highway cover uses will continue to seek feedback from this group, as well as the Black and Historic Albina community through the guidance of the HAAB, and as well as looking for opportunities as it moves further into these stages of potential uses to a broader community engagement. The process of developing opening day This will include development of opening day concepts as well as considerations for longer term development. And ultimately take the shape within some form of community framework agreement that will be guiding future development of the highway cover to be led and supported by the city of Portland. And then ODOT is responsible for designing and constructing the treatments of the spaces that will be part of the highway cover in situ or basically at the end of the construction of the cover itself before any long-term or other development can take place. I think that covers a recap of our slides, and I'm going to pass it back to Erica for framing up our conversations.
Absolutely. Let's see. Next slide. So
I'm sorry, I think
I'll let
did you
you
want
go.
this one?
Nope, go ahead.
I'll just frame this up a little bit. So again, I was mentioning that primarily we wanted to provide that recap and summary of what we've done in the past, and then leading to our next steps in May, really helping expand the conversation around what considerations should shape the project as it moves into 30% design. So I was just going to touch on slightly a description of 30% design as it relates to the cover and transportation. 30% design is intended to establish the project footprint and the general scope. It's related to the highway cover. It will set the general type size and location of the new structure. And in transportation work, the 30% design also seeks the necessary design approvals of the proposed project. So really setting the design parameters and establishing the structure type and general design. As the project moves into 30%, we're seeking input from the HAAB as to what other considerations should be thought of as the highway cover moves forward. And so this check-in point today is really to foreshadow that conversation in May, but I think we also have an opportunity to expand on this conversation. And below on this slide, there's a summary of some of the considerations we've already heard to date and are already tracking as we move forward.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Next slide. We are going to just break out for a short amount of time because we're a little bit behind. So I'm going to make an adjustment. We're going to spend about 10 minutes together and you'll have an opportunity to revisit and those technical consideration pieces. What else do you care about? What else should we be considering? And what else do you need to know to help the project team move forward to the 30% design in May. So at this time, we're going to shift into our breakout rooms for just 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for engaging in the conversation. We are getting close. I'd love to dive in. Tiffany, if you have a brief report out, and then to Bill.
Sure. We talked about additional information needed about how city bureaus and city decision makers, what key points they would be involved in the process and would need input. Wanting more information on air quality, pollution, traffic control, environmental, especially from stakeholders like the city or RIP City who have been involved in the past. And then on the workforce piece, a discussion of getting people of color involved in the technical part of the process, not just workforce and mentorship opportunities to get people into the pipeline and learn from what the IBR workforce study. I understand there could be a presentation upcoming, and that was the gist of it.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Bill?
Sure, Erica, here you go. I think there was a large concern again about the economics of the project, the whole issue of tolling. How does that address? How does that also apply to the IBR and other, that project? So we need to really, I think there was a concern to follow the money and figure out where the tolling is going to come from and how do we, keep this project kind of moving forward. Strong concerns about the issues of governance. Who has a voice in the government, in the governance process? Who participates in the decision making? Will it be an equitable process? And so there are kind of issues of accounting and transparency. And some feel there's a lack of transparency about how the process is moving, and they'd like to see a communication improved. And it feels like some decisions have already been made, and they're just coming to HAAB just to state that the fact that some things have been decided and HAAB wasn't really concerned or not concerned, wasn't consulted about this decision-making process. So transparency is a very strong concern. Big concern also about how do we maximize federal dollars? Are there other ways to bring federal dollars into the project? And also trying to make sure that we get the agencies, the feds, the state, the city, all working together, collaborating all for the same mission.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate both of you taking the opportunity to share your thoughts. There will be detailed notes and transcripts to capture everything that we discussed in both breakout groups. If you would please share the slides. We are going to move forward in our agenda. This next piece of our conversation is in relationship to the OTC resolution. We have with us Brendan Finn from ODOT, from the Urban Mobility Office, as well as Wenta Johannes with the Albina Vision Trust, and Shania Posey with the City of Portland. So I will turn things over to Brendan Finn.
Great. Thank you, Miss Erica. Sorry, the lighting seems to be really bad here, but I am here. Good afternoon, everybody. Here to report out a little bit what happened at the last OTC meeting down in Medford. We spoke briefly about this at the last meeting, but reporting a little bit out on that meeting in March 14th, where the commission did pass a resolution unanimously that directed ODOT to work with our community partners, the Albina Vision Trust, on a work plan. And you'll be hearing more about this work plan and how the HAAB will be engaged in it with the Albina Vision Trust as we look at what the options are. And I just heard, obviously, Mr. Hart talk about what happened in the breakout room about concerns around governance and understanding a little bit more about what that means in the process moving forward. So that was direction from the OTC. They also indicated their support for Albina Vision Trust as a community, as a valued community partner, and it recognized their accomplishments to date. to bring the larger restorative district concept that I know we've been briefed on to fruition. So some of the next steps as we move forward, we have 60 days to put together a bit of a, I'd say, very high level work plan for the work plan, which will be done collaboratively between the agency, AVT, and HAAB. The meetings that are going to be HAAB being our advisory body. We've asked Mr. Modica to sit in on those meetings as we put together that work plan. We're going to give an opportunity, obviously, today in some of the breakout rooms to give some of your thoughts and guidance around that. So we look forward to that. And we'll also have a member of the COAC involved in that process as well as we move forward. And while the OTC passed a resolution as well, there was also one recently passed at Portland City Council. I want to thank HAAB members that were involved in that City Council hearing. Srinivasa in particular, and I was sitting there with Mr. Edwards as well, who was cheering on the audience, and of course Mr. Flowers, Mr. JT Flowers, and his eloquence during that. So I don't know, Shania, I think you're on. If you had anything to share regarding the city resolution. If there was anything to add there before I turn it over to Ms. Winter.
Shania? It's all right. We
Sorry,
can...
everyone. Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go.
My kid limit just is about to run out. So, just give me 1 second here. Okay.
Well, perhaps while we're waiting for Shania, maybe Ms. Winter, I'll pass it over to you. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that was a great summary, Brendan. And it's great to have Commissioner Chapman here who can speak directly for the OTC at that meeting. The only thing that I would add is really just an invitation. JT's been providing tours of the district, so I know that we've given a number of briefings to the HAAB about the community investment plan, including invitations while that process was playing out. But since then, obviously, there's been a lot of additional momentum and moving pieces, and we want to make sure that we are bringing you as close as possible to the work. So we'd love to invite the HAAB to join us for a district tour. I know that as we get into planning for the highway covers, one of the constraints will be that there's only so much that can be built on the covers, and we'll have to consider how additional community priorities are folded into the adjacent spaces around them. And so in order to do that, I think having the tour and just the benefit of continuing to build the relationships is important to us. And so JT, anything else you'd like to add about the OTC meeting, the city council hearing, or anything as our HAAB representative? I'll pass it back to you.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, Winter. I've tried to emphasize this in conversations with HAAB members on and offline, but we just really want to make it clear that our door is open. We're in the Left Bank building, 240 North Broadway. Y'all can stroll in there whenever you want. Sometimes Mr. Posey just pops up on us, which is beautiful. Like that is really what we would like to work towards here. So I know we've talked with Erica and Dr. Holt about setting up a tour, but I really would urge us as a body to take that seriously. And if folks, have the opportunity to come out, to please just come out and sit down with us. We can answer questions. We can go back and forth. And we're happy to break it up into multiple tours on multiple days and multiple times if that makes it easier for more folks to attend. So yeah, if we could really emphasize that as a priority moving forward, I think it would be to everybody's benefit. But yeah, just know that the door is open on our end.
Mr. Posey, I do see your hand. I'll give you a moment to respond before we move.
Yeah, I just want to say real quickly, my computer ran out, my battery, I tell you, I'm all over the place today. I just want to tell you that JT, I don't know, he needs to go to Hollywood or something, because when he runs those tours, I learned more in the tours that I've had with JT. You know, about 2 weeks ago, they did a tour for a group from the NAACP that came to town, and it was fantastic. All the time I've been running around here seeing AVT and all the stuff they put out. That one tour that I went on with them, I learned more about what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. So I would encourage anybody to get and find out what AVT is really doing. Go to one of JT's tours and Winter. They did a fantastic job, y'all. I'm just telling you. So anyway, I'm gonna shut up. It was beautiful.
It's okay.
We appreciate you, Mr. Posey. And I could also just add, you know, even if it takes reaching out to folks one-on-one, like one by one, so that everybody has the opportunity to attend individually, like I'm happy to do it that way. Whatever works for y'all works for us on this here. So just know that much.
Thank you, JT. I want to ask Wenta and Brendan. I do see your hand, Mr. Washington, and I saw yours, Estelle. If you all had any additional comments before we move into breakouts, we are going to dive a little bit deeper. You all can ask some questions. We're going to spend let me see, I'm going to adjust our time based on what we have. Why don't we're going to spend.
Erica, we did want to comment a little bit on that. Caitlin's going to speak for us.
That's wonderful. Okay, my apologies. Let's
Yeah,
dive
that was the
in.
one thing I was going to say is I want to make sure our partners at the city have a chance to weigh in. Yeah.
Indeed. Caitlin, thank you for stepping in.
No problem. And thanks all for understanding. Sorry, Shania, that you got pulled away. I think her babysitter's otherwise engaged. But nice to see you all. I'm Caitlin Reff, excuse me, City of Portland, with the Bureau of Transportation, for those of you that I haven't met. But we did just want to add on to what you just heard from Brendan and Winta, that there was also a moment at City Council last week, which I think you're all aware of. And at that City Council hearing, there was also an amendment to the resolution introduced, which recognized and further supported the resolution that was previously heard on March 14th at the Oregon Transportation Commission. And the city also provided an update on kind of PBOT and other Bureau work and collaboration. Megan Channel was there providing an update on the ODOT responsiveness to City Council conditions from 2022 and overall project status and funding. I think that we've kind of already covered some of the other aspects, but I did also just want to take a moment to say that on behalf of PBOT and city partners, extend our gratitude to the HAAB representatives and AVT that were present at City Council last week. It was a very long meeting, but the team showed up really well with kind of strength, purpose, presence, and it really demonstrated the value of this work and the project for our city and state. So the resolution and ordinance were both approved unanimously by all the present members of City Council. And with the acceptance of the resolution, City Council also approved, the ordinance and resolution, which through ordinance amendment to our intergovernmental agreement adds other city bureaus, including the Bureau of Technology Services, as well as Prosper Portland, to support the project in this next stage, which does include final design services for the early work packages and extends our contract through the 30% main construction package in 2025. So essentially, we look forward to continuing to collaborate on this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Mr. Washington, is your comment in regards to the OTC? Can we talk about it in our breakout rooms? I'm going to give us about 10 minutes together to dive deeper into that. I cannot hear you, Mr. Washington. Unmute, please.
Is Brandon Finn gonna be in our breakout room?
Yes.
Okay, then if he isn't there, then I can do that in the breakout room. I
Okay.
needed to ask him a question, that's all.
Okay.
All right? All right,
Okay.
all
All
right,
right.
cool.
With that, I'm going to reduce our time just a bit so that we can stay on track. So if you all who are helping in the technical area can give us 10 minutes together in the breakout rooms, we're going to be incorporating your thoughts in regards to the work plan or answering questions that you might have. So if you would avail yourself, we're going to head into our breakout rooms.
I just need to say, yes, Sprinna, I know you got cut off, but I very much support that whole conversation.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. Well, if Tiffany is with us, maybe she can give us a brief recap of your thoughts in the session.
Sure. Most of our time we spent kind of going over questions and getting JT to clarify things, being wonderful about the ABT process and the clarification of the resolutions. There was more discussion about the need for transparency, wanting to be clear on what the decision points are, who decides, what the timeline is, how the HAAB representative was selected for being part of the work plan process, and really the need for a regular feedback loop with the HAAB on the work plan for people to have opportunities to weigh in. And then right before we left, Sprinna was having a wonderful comment that we got halfway through, just kind of talking about the overall climate in Portland, about comfort discussing race versus Texas, and how we might wrangle that with this project moving forward.
And what was the stipulations from the committee? ODOT, the framework of the work plan.
Right. Anything else, Shannon?
No, I do want to just uplift, though, that we were unable to answer Mr. Washington's question about the selection process for HAAB members. And so I don't know if we have time. If not, I want to make sure that we are able to follow up with folks about how that process happened.
Indeed. Thank you, Shannon. Will do. Bill, if you just give us a brief overview.
Will do. Discussion talked a little bit about, there haven't been any precedents for a highway cover design where the objective is restorative justice. That hasn't really occurred anywhere. And I think ABT's been given the opportunity now to own the air rights in the adjacent parcels around the cover, because their approach is that development will occur both on and around the cover. And so they want to have authority of those areas. We still need to determine the legal limits of what this process is, about how you determine ownership around federal dollars on these projects. But we need to have a kind of a deeper engagement to understand how this all works. I think, let's see, it was a unanimous decision by the OTC about making the resolution and approving it. And it's, really a partnership between ODOT and ABT with, HAAB involvement in some way. Additional due diligence still needs to be done about how this thing is actually going to work, and the work plan is going to go down the road. So we still have a lot of work to do. But the idea is to try to position this project for success, both for the objectives that we're trying to do and the outcomes, but also for achieving additional funding down the road to make sure we can get funding to do the project. Still need a review of federal regulations. It's a complicated project. And the idea is to have continued engagement with the community and with HAAB about the next steps. And one concern was about, this process needs to be much more, again, transparent, and that HAAB should be involved in these. If we're a partner, HAAB's a partner, they should be involved before these things move on to either OTC or to other agencies without going through HAAB.
Thank you, Bill.
That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill, can you say that again? Your last note.
Oh, HAAB would like to be, if the process is open, HAAB wants to be involved as an active partner before things move on to OTC, before they move on to the city. HAAB should be involved and participate in that way as an active and respected partner.
Okay.
Is that captured or?
I must have been distracted and missed that whole string of thought. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Thank you. I will, before we move on to our next steps, and you can share the slides. This is a very complicated process, none that we've done before. I appreciate the dialogue, that which is comfortable and that which is uncomfortable. We are moving and trying to move this process forward. There are a lot of areas where we are making shifts to make sure that you all, that HAAB members and the broader historic Albina community are engaged in a way that is transparent and respectful. Know that we are in agreement with that and working with all of our partners, not just ODOT, the Rose Quarter, city partners, to move that agenda forward and keeping us accountable to that. Mr. Posey, I do see your hand. If you all will go ahead and share the slides, Mr. Posey, feel free to unmute and jump in.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Yeah, you cut off my video. I know I was looking bad, but my video, I can't put it back on. It says a host stopped my video. So
well, that's not me. I don't know what had happened. We want to see your face.
That's okay. I just want to acknowledge that the young lady, I can't even remember her name here now, who was at City Council, and it appears as if in our breakout room, she was concerned about the disrespect shown to based upon the presentation that HJT and AVT made, and we had a city councilor that got up and walked out, and she was amazed at that. And I didn't see the thing, but from what I can tell, this HAAB needs to respond to that disrespect. And if I see what happened at City Council, I don't mind responding to that. But that's, you just can't take disrespect like that and let it go by like that. That's why nobody wants to come to Portland. We cannot continue to tolerate City Council members. This guy's running to be the mayor. And somebody ought to, I mean, they want to, Willamette Week want to talk about somebody. What's going on with that? Why are we letting that happen? She's sort of frustrated and bewildered by that, and so am I. I didn't see that, but and I've watched JT and went to them make presentations. They're all professional. They do the best job I've seen. So why would we allow the city council, the mayor, anybody else that denigrate a presentation by people like us? I don't get that. Can y'all explain that to me?
Well, I'm not sure who is directed at. Maybe we have some city partners, but I would agree, Mr. Posey, you should take a look at the recording. I don't know if there are others who are from the city who can respond. I don't know if they have the perspective or.
Also, just really briefly, would love to give just a shout out to Sprinna. Yeah, that the only reason that meeting even remotely stayed on the rails was because of her quick thinking, thoughtfulness, and willingness and courage to speak nothing but pure truth to power. So yeah, very grateful for you, Sprinna.
Who did that?
Sprinna
Sprinna Brown. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm concerned that we just let people get away with that, and I don't know what the response would be. I didn't see it, but it sounds like to me that was very disrespectful, and nobody should be able to get away with that at a city council meeting. Somebody ought to write
James,
something.
one of us. Well, I did do the follow up on that, and I asked that question of him in his office, and it wasn't that he had any adverse or some kind of plan to that. He got up, and there was a number of things, but one of the things he was trying to say was that for some odd reason, when we keep talking about equity and all of that kind of stuff, his thought was how come this is not open to competitive reality? And that was what his thinking was. So when they get a chance to to talk a little bit more to him, he didn't have anything necessarily against ATV or anything. The way I understood it, he had a little bit of a problem with the process, you know? And so I think that, you know, there's a conversation that needs to be had, I guess. And it's the same conversation we keep trying to have in this room. You know, I mean, is this a competitive process? Or is this just a process that we wanted to just go one way? Or what? I mean, so it was a little strange to him. I guess he felt a little bit uncomfortable with it. He felt like it was some premeditated something. I wasn't clear necessarily about all of the parts that he was saying, but he kept trying to say that should be more competitive, and that was where I think he was coming from.
I think we're talking about two different, well, similar, but kind of two different pieces in the meeting. But I will acknowledge, yes, I understand that perspective from one of our city commissioners. But Mr. Posey, I think you may be referring to, and what JT spoke to is as the presentation would not have happened. I think that there were some direction or questions from our mayor that may have moved us in a different direction. So I see a hand from Sharon, and I'll let you comment before we move forward. For some reason, even though you're unmuted, Sharon, we're unable to hear you.
Okay, does that work?
Yes,
There's
indeed.
so many challenges going on. I'm so sorry. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to speak to some of this. I think we were all surprised at some of the remarks that one commissioner made. And I know that we will be or are working on following up and looking for ways to ensure that our briefings are more frequent so that they are kept up to speed. We did brief Commissioner Gonzalez's office. He personally, unfortunately, was unable to join that briefing. And so I think I don't know, there may have been a disconnect there, but that is certainly something that we learned a lesson on and will be working to improve upon.
Sharon, thank you for stepping in there. If you all, I know we are at time. If you all will give us just a couple of moments, Brendan, I'd love to have you and Mike just give briefly, if you could condense your remarks, if you can, around the next steps. I would appreciate just a brief update there in regards to grant funding, et cetera.
Happy to do that, Winter, but I saw your hand raised, so if you want to jump in there real quick. I can be really brief, members, but I want to make sure I share some things with you.
My apologies, I did not see the hand.
No worries, Erica. I'll be brief. Just, regarding the city council hearing, it was a huge wake-up call to all of us at AVT and I hope for the HAAB as well. I mean, the biggest takeaway for us was that, it took all of us so long to get to a place where we committed to restorative justice as a core purpose of this project. And what we saw at the city council was that the project values themselves will be tested each time there's turnover of elected leadership. And so we're already seeing that all of us, I think, are going to have to reaffirm what this project is, how we've gotten here, and what we expect it to be moving forward. And while AVT and HAAB and others are talking about governance and, development, the future of development, there are some members of city council wanting to have completely different kinds of conversations that won't include any of us here. And so All that to say, I think it's a topic for, you know, longer and maybe offline conversations around how we keep all of the various stakeholders consistently briefed on what this is and what we expect it to deliver until the project is actually delivered.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Winta. I appreciate it.
And Erica, would I be able to chime in really quickly?
Very quickly.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Ms. Leslie's comment. Yeah, absolutely agree with you there, Ms. Leslie. Also, I just wanted to clarify that neither of these resolutions conferred any rights to AVT. They did set an intention that directs ODOT to work towards, creating a work plan that explores governance with the intention of trying to figure out if that might be possible, if it might be possible for AVT to assume those rights down the road. But we're not quite there yet. So just wanted to make sure that y'all are fully aware of like what the resolution is, what the resolution isn't, so that we can have more constructive conversations down the road.
Right. I understand that, but that wasn't clear from the two meetings that was the case. And that's what I was saying is that
okay, copy.
That was not clear what it was conferring or not conferring, and that everybody didn't have an opportunity to talk about it.
That makes perfect sense. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying as much as I could on this here.
Thank you. Thank you all for the open dialogue. Thank you for being willing to step over. Brendan, if you all can give me 4 minutes, we will commit to being done at 6:10. So Brendan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Erica. And going back to something that was something that we did together, and if it wasn't for community partners, this group and others, is securing that $450 million from the federal government to really reinvigorate a lot of our work. We want to make sure this group is completely kept up to speed on how we're going about that process, as it is a process with our federal partners at USDOT. We have just last week did a webinar with them. They're assigning someone to work with us. We're going to be putting together a grant agreement based on the scope with them. But we really want to make sure you're kept updated on that as it goes. We'll make that a standing item here so everyone knows what's happening with that. Unfortunately, these things do take time. We're thinking that the grant agreement could take up to a year. So plenty of time to come back and talk about how that is progressing and what's in that. But wanted to first of all daylight those first progressive steps. This is new to ODOT as far as not having a grant agreement, but one of this size, this scope, this importance. There's going to be a lot of work to be done, but I wanted to share just how these first steps are taking place and how we're going to be coming back to you. So I'll stop there, Mr. Baker. I'm not sure if you had anything to add on that because I kept that within 2 minutes, Ms. Erica.
You're good. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you all for the discussion, for being a part of the conversation, for continuing to be committed to the work. We appreciate the passion for this community, for the work that we're doing in regards to restorative justice. Thank you to our partners at the City of Portland, as well as our champions from the HAAB and from ABT for leaning in. I think what Winta said is very, very poignant, that often when we're trying to do the right thing, we will continue to be challenged. And this is our opportunity to continue to lean into the work as our ancestors and those before us have done to get us to this place. So with that, I will say thank you. We will be meeting again in the month of May. If there are additional thoughts, comments around any of the topics that we discussed today, please feel free, as you always do, to reach out via email or phone, and we will do our best to be responsive in a timely manner. Have a wonderful evening, all. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. Good
Thank
night.
you, Erica. Great job. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, all.
Night, y'all.